applause for Isaiah and Emily.
Thank you.
Just want to say thank you. I've had a really good semester. I think we were talking, and this might be by far the best public speaking class I think I've had in years. And stand-up, this was my first time, so I have no one to compare you to. But I'm going to assume that it was great. And I think you learn enough stuff in college in terms of like facts and lists and theories and models and stuff. And I think the two things you don't learn is you don't learn to have fun with public speaking, right? So you're like the few people in America who will maybe no longer list this as their #1 fear. And that's what's so important to me, and that's why I think especially for the parents that are sitting out there, the intellectual rigor of this activity might seem low, but you have to let people work with the material that they like, because the most important thing for them is to enjoy the stage first, before they can use the stage to espouse sort of like higher level critical thinking ideas, which is what other people teach them in college. But I will say, you know, we aim for transgression of social boundaries, and some of you I think really shot the shot on that, and some of you could kind of continue to work on getting past the shock value in order to be insightful. And so, just to practice what I preach, I wrote a joke for you that I'm gonna premiere, and then we'll wrap it up. So, this is my attempt to do the stand-up analogy joke. So you can critique it all you want. Tonight's dress rehearsal, I have never premiered this for anyone, except Emily Vandereem saw it once, and then I'll finalize it tomorrow, okay? So I just returned home from a visit with my father over Thanksgiving, and our visits always go exactly the same. I walk into his freezing cold living room, he points to 2 stacks of DVDs and says, "Oh, I picked us out some movies. I got some blood and killing movies for me, and I got some chick flicks for you." And so the blood and killing movies in the one stack are war movies, and then in the chick flick stack are war movies with romance. So we spent like 3 days watching war movies that I've seen dozens and dozens of times. And I used to try to get engaged in this activity. I'd look at my dad, "Oh, this is really cool. Is this based on actual events? Or like, did this guy live in the end?" And I finally gave up because every time I open my mouth, he just looks at me disgusted. "Oh, your generation. You have no appreciation for the sacrifice that these men went through, what they gave up for our country. You know all about the latest smartphone app, but you don't have any knowledge of the single greatest battle in military history." And for the record, I've seen all of these movies. They're all the single greatest battle in military history. And that would be a very fair critique. Totally fair, totally reasonable. If my father had served 1 day of active duty in the United States military. But he didn't. While my father's kindred were out spilling their guts and blood and having their body parts mailed home to loved ones, he was Animal Housing it up in cutoff shorts at some Ivy League on a yacht somewhere, managing to graduate just in time not to get drafted to Vietnam. And so I spent a lot of time seething with resentment sitting in front of this television set, thinking like, in what scenario could I express that level of just self-righteous hypocrisy? When I came up with it. So, tomorrow you turn on your TV, and the Commander-in-Chief is on there, and he's all, "America, we're in a state of emergency. It's the worst emergency we've ever seen. It's so bad. I've never seen anything like it. Everywhere, nobody can get pregnant. Nobody can have babies. Nobody's having babies. There's no more babies. No one can get pregnant. The sperm is the worst. Everyone's sperm is terrible, except my sperm. I have the greatest sperm, the best sperm." So, if you're of childbearing age, which I don't know, I think that's like 15, right? You need to go out, you need to do your duty for your country, get pregnant, start getting those babies out. We need them fast, we need them hard. America's counting on you. He's talking to me, right? Childbearing capabilities. I mean, I got like hips as wide as the chassis on the new Corvette, and I was clearly like meant to be out in some Midwestern cornfield somewhere, just like popping out offspring before I wipe up my afterbirth with the hem of my dress and go like milk Bessie for the rest of the afternoon. And I could do it. I could sign up. I could serve. I could do my duty. I could serve my country. But I got a better idea. I'll stay here at Geneseo, and I'll teach classes about birthing. How to birth, strategies for birthing, how do we get into the birthing mess, what did we used to do about birthing, how can we solve birthing? I don't know who's gonna take the classes, because, presumably anyone who could use the material is out birthing. But, maybe some male nurses or something are still here, and they'll be helpful. And so the years go on, and eventually the ship rights itself, and everyone starts procreating as normally. And everything's good. And then the movies start to come out. Oh, there's so many movies about the greatest germination, a whole collection of women who sacrificed a tight vag and a skyrocketing career for love of God and country. And I'm just buying them up one $14.99 director's cut super special edition at a time, listening to Emma Watson, Robertson Burr give these amazing insipid monologues about how it was the greatest childbirth in the history of motherhood. Like scenes of just these disgusting hospitals covered in fetid pools, women giving birth to like these underdeveloped twins and triplets, and nary an epidural or aspirin in sight, and there's no doctors or nurses anywhere because most of them are off, giving birth, and so people are just like rotting around in their own filth, dying of infectious diseases and getting pneumonia. And then, after I run out of DVDs, which are now just like stacked in my living room in a DVD stacker, because apparently they still make those, I eventually drag some kid, not my kid obviously, to the movie theater to watch the release of Angelina Jolie's latest directorial saga, Moon Warrior. And it tells the story of these women, these unsung heroes at home, and when they were on the verge of their greatness in a career with no children, they bought these lovely, trendy 900 square foot lofts that were all renovated with high vault ceilings, but now they're just covered with children everywhere, or just rolling around in their own rot and putrid, and you got half-dressed toddlers just crawling around, and little babies that are crying for a breastfeeding that will not come from the saggy-titted shell of a woman who's just sitting in the middle of this chaos, glass-eyed and slack-jawed, immune to the cries of the horde that she just keeps reproducing. And I watch this film, I'm so misty-eyed, humbled by the valor of these women. I'm wearing my commemorative POW MIA t-shirt signed by 47th President Cardi B, which of course stands for Pussies of War, Motherhood in Action. And then that snot-nosed kid looks at me and is like, did this really happen? And in that moment, I would rather shame that kid for being an ungrateful, historically ignorant moron than admit that I am the biggest pussy in the world. And of course, this analogy is ridiculous because America will never elect a woman president. Thank you. And that wraps us up. So grab some candy and popcorn to go. And if I don't see you, have a nice end of the semester.